Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you are all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and some very interesting topics to run through today, the chief among which being that Formal talking about how this game, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, is the best he has been on a title since Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. That's a pretty scary thing for the opposition, given that Formal in Infinite Warfare, especially at the World Championships as we're going to look at in the coming minutes here, was probably the best version of any Call of Duty player we have seen in Call of Duty history. Some other interesting things to talk about as well. Wanted to look at it from a more general angle as to which players might be the most improved coming from the last couple of years into this title this time around. Intrigued to hear your perspective in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, let's talk about this real quick. As Stream Hatchet say, the COD League launch weekend this past weekend topped the list with 107,000 peak viewers. That's actually more than what we got this time last year, which is pretty impressive to see, really. The fact that this time, okay, the pre-season matches very similar to what we saw last time around, but at the same time this was online. These matches actually didn't count for anything, whereas last season they actually did. So the fact that we actually increased the viewership this year, in my opinion, that is a pretty solid sign for the year to come, especially when the matches where we get to major grand finals and stuff like this. I'm sure the viewership is going to be great if we have the biggest teams in those matches, as I imagine we will, especially if Formal is looking very dominant as he seems to have been so far this year. Nameless's Boomer Bash went on yesterday, so these are all the teams. Many OG names coming back in this one for the tournament, but it was Rated's team with Frosty, Frozone and Miracles that actually ended up winning it. Pretty interesting that Frosty, right, having a, well, the Mutineers didn't want to keep him on for this season. He's now, okay, what does he do? Does he go to Halo? Does he kind of play through the Challenger side this season? Maybe he will, well, come back at some point to the Call of Duty scene. A very talented player, of course, that we've seen the last few years. Unfortunately, I don't imagine we'll be seeing him in the Pro League this time around. But yeah, Rated here, of course, as a professional Warzone player for 100 Thieves at the current time, and Miracles, Call of Duty World Champion way back in Call of Duty Black Ops 2. So pretty cool to see them get the job done here in Cold War. Who knows what the future holds for some of these guys. Also from Charlie Intel, we talked a couple of days ago about, okay, these viewership rewards coming into the game. Apparently, they're also going to evolve throughout the year, including operator skins. That's certainly a step in the right direction. We're certainly looking for something like camos, right? I think that would really, well, drive engagement and viewership in the stream. If you could watch the stream and also earn camos, I'd love to see something like kind of how they have in CSGO, like for the majors, where if you watch on a particular map, then you can, well, you get like drops dependent on that particular map, right? So maybe you could have something right here. This is some graphics that Lineman made yesterday, but as you can see, this OpTic Chicago one right here, there's actually a Scump's name kind of etched into it. And imagine if you were watching a match between OpTic and LA Thieves, then at some point, you know, randomly you might get a drop for that match, and then it would be engraved with like a particular player or something. And you know, there's definitely some ways you could do this. I'm not sure how difficult that would be to actually execute, but something dependent on maybe the map you're watching or something. So if you tune into a Paris Legion match, you might get a Paris Legion, you know, camo or something like this. Who really knows? That's certainly a direction you might be able to go with it, and certainly something I'm hoping they can execute on going forwards in the season. Even if there was like a stage 1 camo or something, which is kind of like CDL colors, but you know, maybe they changed it through the different stages. There was like a stage 1 to 5 camo. Maybe it got better over time or something. There's a World Championships camo as well that you can get for watching the matches. Certainly people are going to be asking in game when they, well, see these things, get killed by these things, like, okay, where's he got that from? Hopefully it has like a particular name, and then people can find out, okay, where does that camo come from? Okay, I have to watch the Call of Duty League to get this cool camo. That'd be great. I think that's much more of an incentive than you know, double XP or, you know, calling cards, emblems, this type of stuff. Probably not going to drive too much engagement. With something like camos, that certainly is going to drive engagement. So I think that's certainly probably the future of these viewership rewards, but it's good to see we are finally getting there at some point here, and well, finally YouTube and Activision are getting their stuff together. A few of you guys were pointing this out to me yesterday. Scump says contract, it is official. Supposedly on stream later on in the day, he said, look, this isn't related to the CDL, so maybe either a sponsorship arrangement. Some people were talking about Raid Shadow Legends, right, because he talked about he got fined by the Call of Duty League for doing a sponsored stream with them, even though it was in the off-season, not at all related to the Call of Duty League, but somehow they fined him for it, and well, Scump was not particularly happy with that. So who knows exactly what contract he has signed here. Maybe it's just a sponsorship deal, or maybe he's become another part owner of a company or something, like I imagine is the situation over with Drink Control at the current time. But speaking of OpTic and speaking of Scump, his duo TGP Formal said the following yesterday: this definitely my best COD since Infinite Warfare. Thank God, I thought I was losing it. And it's pretty interesting to hear this from Formal, right? Because a few years ago, back in Infinite Warfare, back in Black Ops 3, the discussion was, okay, Formal is the best player in the game, certainly the best assault rifle in the game. There was other names up there, Octane and Slasher at the time, but Formal was probably considered number one. But throughout World War II, then throughout Black Ops 4, then throughout Modern Warfare, there was certainly, okay, Formal isn't quite performing like what he used to. Maybe he's not quite the player that he once was. Guys like Octane, guys like Slasher, probably taking that number one assault rifle rightful spot in the game. And the question was really, okay, with Formal, yes, last season and predominantly online in Modern Warfare, so you certainly couldn't see the best of Formal playing from California, but at the same time, you know, the last few years haven't exactly been his best, right? And there was certainly a question, when's Formal going to get back to form? Is he ever going to get back to form? Can his teams compete properly if he's not, well, not in the shape that he necessarily used to be a few years ago, right? And in Infinite Warfare, as we're looking at in a second, he was absolutely out of control, right? But in World War II, that OpTic gaming squad was not good at all. They broke down entirely, of course, after Seattle. Then he joins Luminosity Gaming, and he was very good at the World Championship that year. I think they came top 6. Honestly, they could have done better. He was dropping 1.4s under JCab at that event once again. Very good at the World Championship, typically Formal. Then into Black Ops 4, also he was on LG. They did win an event at Fort Worth, but not really too much else happened that year. It was a little bit questionable exactly who should be running what roles on that team, especially once Skies came into the squad and it got a little bit muddy. Exactly who should be running what. Should Formal be on the Maddox? Should he still be on the main ICR at the time? Then Modern Warfare back on the Chicago Huntsman was certainly a very solid player, did his job, but probably overshadowed maybe by Arcitys, to be honest, in terms of what he was putting up at times with the M4 when that kind of 2 M4 meta came into the game in the late part of the season. But this time around, looks like Formal very much back on form, looking very, very strong. That first matchup, he had like an easy, a comfortable 1.2 up against Los Angeles Thieves. This, if you guys didn't watch the World Championship back in the day when OpTic Gaming did win it in 2017, this was, well, their MVP was Formal with the FTL jump with a 1.44 KD. Never seen anything like it, to be honest. I mean, this guy was absolutely out of control. These were lineman cards. I think he's made a few of these since then and keeps updating them, to be honest, because this is the one people always ask about, right? Like, this is the best event performance probably from any player of all time. 1.49 in hardpoint, 1.44 in search, 1.38 in uplink. I mean, look at this. AR #1, overall #1. I mean, just incredible stuff. And yeah, this was the Formal that we used to know back in the day. Pretty much untouchable. Who is going to compete with this man? And Advanced Warfare as well, he was also very good. Black Ops 3, Infinite Warfare, 3 of his best titles. But the last 3 titles haven't necessarily been so good. And there's been some questions around exactly when is Formal going to get back to form, if he's ever going to be able to. And this time around, he certainly feels confident in him coming back to form. And also, well, it seems like that is certainly a possibility on the cards. Based on the statistics we've seen him put up so far this year in, well, that pre-season match we saw last weekend. So there's also the question mark I wanted to bring up is exactly which players outside of Formal could be the ones to, well, improve the most over their performance levels over the last couple of seasons. So there's a few names I picked out right here. Formal was kind of a question mark, given that, okay, Formal, realistically, he's not like he's been bad the last few seasons by any means. Still been putting up solid numbers, but maybe we would expect somewhat more, and I think he expects probably more of himself, as he's implying in that tweet right there. But a few of the names to look at here, I think Slacked is a good one at the Mutineers. Honestly, all of those guys last year on the Seattle Surge, they probably have to have somewhat of a bounce back year right here, because Slacked has definitely won championships on multiple titles before that Seattle Surge disaster of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. So here on the Mutineers, he certainly has a lot to prove. I think that he's a player who so far in this game has looked pretty solid. Dylan as well, another big name, right? Because in Black Ops 4, this kid was out of control, was dominating series on that Reciprocity squad as it was at the time, but in Modern Warfare, really couldn't get anything going, maybe wasn't in the best positions. This opening weekend, we saw him have a pretty damn good result over at the Royal Ravens, at least in terms of the statistics he was putting up. Maybe he looked a little bit like the Dylan of old that we used to see back in Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Hopefully that is the case. If we can get that level of Dylan again, I think that, well, London can be certainly a competitive team this season, but he was someone who had a great season in Black Ops 4, really did nothing in Modern Warfare, needs to probably bounce back strongly. You could say something similar really about aBeZy on the Los Angeles Grillers, legendary player, 2-time world champion, always someone will be known to be very consistent, putting up good figures, but in the Seattle Surge squad last season, he was probably their second best player, you could say, after Octane, but still, on LAG, they're going to need him to be a dominant force, to have a big bounce back year after that Seattle Surge difficult time that they had if they want to actually compete. TJHaLy as well, I think, is a big one, right? You look back at World War II, you look back at Black Ops 4, this guy was out of control, like best SMG player in the game, you could argue, in World War II, then it gets picked up to OpTic Gaming in Black Ops 4, right? Doesn't get too much better than that. Then Modern Warfare on OpTic Gaming Los Angeles, nowhere to be found, nowhere near the talented entry SMG player that we've really seen in previous titles. So I think this year is really a big bounce back year for him, because it's very important to have a player like that who can go in first, can entry with the SMG, and I think LA Thieves are going to rely on him a lot. It's pretty interesting to see, really. TJ and Kenny were kind of the two SMG powerhouses back in Call of Duty World War II, and well, now they're here on one team together. I think they're going to need some great performance levels out of each other if they're going to want to compete with the best. We looked at Formal really quick. I also wanted to look at the Seattle Surge, right, because you've got a guy like Gunless, not on a team for the latter half of last season, also the same with Loony, got removed off Toronto Ultra very early on. So these are some players I think, well, can have bounce back years, and I'm pretty confident that most of these guys will bounce back effectively from the previous couple of years. years. Just to finish off the video with this from 100 Thieves, 0 to 100 is returning on the 11th of February. You got to start somewhere, right? Of course, didn't have the greatest result that first preseason weekend up against OpTic Chicago. But yeah, they're doing more great documentary stuff on the way from the Call of Duty franchises. LA Thieves certainly know what they're doing in terms of content. And also this, which Enable said, which I thought was pretty interesting, talking about how Los Angeles Thieves fans are going to get exclusive player kits and exclusive fan gear coming very soon indeed. We'll have to, stay tuned for what the curator has in store for us over the Los Angeles Thieves side. Enjoy to hear your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. Really helps out the YouTube algorithm to know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well. And help grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you very much as always. Take care. And I will see you next time.